Is screenwriting secondary writing, Kenneth?
No, but it's not there to be read. It's to be filmed.
Exactly.
And it's not interesting to read. I mean, sometimes it is, occasionally, but it's not. It's fun to read the screenplay of a movie that you like, to see what it was like when it was a screenplay. But this is just for me. I don't find them to be terribly interesting to read. I don't find plays to be that interesting to read either. I have trouble reading plays, which are, except for Shakespeare and Shaw, who write are almost as much fun to read as they are to watch, for me. But screenplays are, exterior, interior. We see a car slowly approaching a rise in a hill. Who cares? I mean, you want to see it in the movie screen, at least I do. There are many exceptions, of course. One of my favorite movies, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, is about someone who's in love with flying saucers and outer space and spaceships, which I also am in love with.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and it's a very unusual movie because all it is about a guy who meets a flying saucer and then tries to find it again, and then he
abandons his family in the process.
Yes.
That's the wrinkle in the story. I'm aware of that problem, but I just overlook it, as you have to overlook some things.
Why are you fascinated by flying saucers?
I just like them. They're pretty and they fly around. They're from outer space. And
It's the great unknown. Who isn't?
The great unknown.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But just to say, I mean, that's an autobiographical film in the sense that Steven Spielberg is personally in love with these flying saucers, but it's the flying saucers he's in love with, and that's the subject of the movie. So it's both. The Richard
This
Dreyfuss
brings us to
character,
directors, because you're sort of defending the director as auteur, which a lot of writers don't like. How much does the director really define the film, and how much is it the writer?
Before anyone else answers that, I'm not, because I think there's many ways to make movies. I'm a big fan of the product from the Hollywood studio system in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and into the 50s. Those very few writer-directors at that time, and great movies, great writers, great directors, great actors, great producers. And so I don't think there's only one way to make a film by any means. There's clearly as many ways to make a film as there are films.
Was there any specific thing that made you want to make Manchester?
Well, by the time I was finished writing the script, I liked it a lot. I liked the characters and I liked the setting. I'd learned a lot about that part of the world that takes place in Cape Ann, Massachusetts. And I lived with it I'd lived with it in a enjoyable way for 2 years, and it wasn't a big leap to want to direct it once the idea was put to me.
Sorry, I have to say I'm somewhat taken aback.
He can't live with me. I live in one room.
Well, but Joe has provided for Patrick's upkeep. Food, clothes, etc. And the house and the boat are owned outright.
I can't commute from Boston every day until he turns 18.
I think the idea was that you would relocate.
Relocate to where?
Well, if you
Here?
look, as you can see, your brother worked everything out extremely carefully.
But he can't have,
yes,
can't have meant that.
It took me a little bit longer than usual to write this script because my first pass on it was not very interesting. So I had a year of really struggling with it and not liking it, and then I started over and it got better. And then it usually takes me about 2 years. Take me 6 to 8 months to write a first draft that I like, and then the remainder of time to make it 10 to 20% better.
When you wrote Manchester by the Sea, what was your starting point? Did you think of other writers, or what was the very beginning
No,
of that?
I don't usually think of other writers when I'm writing. I will sometimes think of films or plays. I mean, I think I'm very, in a way, Stanley Kubrick I find to be a tremendous influence. I just love his aesthetic and his immense and somewhat cold vision of things, but very human inside of it. And there's I don't think there's a great deal of similarity between his work and my work, but I do find him to be something to aspire to. I find writers or any kind of artists who are very committed to pursuing their idea and are brave about it to be very inspiring, whether it's Proust, who wrote these massive novel with these long spiraling sentences and paragraphs that go on and on for pages and pages, or if it's Werner Herzog, It's incredible, improvisatory, grand vision of so many different things and traveling all over the world. I find them both very inspiring. And there's a comic book artist, Harvey Pekar, who was the naturalist, the neo-naturalistic comic book artist who chronicled his life and the life of his friends in Cleveland. He's very inspiring. No plot, no nothing, stories without beginnings or endings, and strictly taken from overheard dialogue and written in comic book form. I think he was really special. I think there's so many different ways to do things, and if it works, it works. I mean, for me, I tend to find my way through the specifics and details and small details of daily life I find to be fascinating, and that's a gateway to me to open up a bigger world that might turn into a play or a film.
Hi, I'm Taraji P. Henson.
What's going on? I'm Alicia Keys.
Matt Damon.
Naomi Harris.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for watching.
For more videos,
Be sure to subscribe to Hollywood Reporter.
I don't work for the Hollywood Reporter. They paid me to say that, though.